any competitive endeavor, business world or athletic world, anybody in that spot, it's awesome when those things come to fruition. And when Rory McIlroy was up 3 strokes for a good chunk of the day yesterday at Augusta National, TJ, did you think he was about to run away with it? Or did you sit there and go, how long is this going to last?
Well, he's been known to choke. I didn't know how long it was going to last. And Rose was on fire that whole entire day. So you never knew when he was going to catch up. And then I believe the 15th hole, when McIlroy did mess up and put Rose in a position to take the lead, I was worried for McIlroy. I was like, no, not again, man. Come on, man. Not again.
And even then he had a chance, on 18.
Yeah.
And yet he ends up going to a playoff. And for those of us that like to see people reach those hard-to-reach milestones and finally get over the hump, I think it's awesome. Again, time to get my usher on for just a moment here in the fast lane. We're going to go to the other country club sport, but tennis. There are a lot of people out there, my wife included, who are Rafael Nadal fans. There are a lot of people out there, our buddy Drew Dinsick from the podcast network that he has, the Deep Dive podcast, and also does some stuff with NBC Sports for Bet the Edge, that are big Roger Federer fans.
Yeah.
The graciousness, the grace, the tenacity. I was always more of a Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray fan. Get the most out. It's not always pretty, but middle fingers to people who just want aesthetics and can't appreciate that sometimes being ugly and winning is still a skill in and of itself. And, again, somebody who you could certainly emphasize the ugly part, but maybe even the style of performance in certain ways, things don't always come easy. So when you have to grind your way through, facing setback after setback after setback. It was awesome last year when Novak Djokovic won the French Open. I think it's the last major event in tennis he's ever going to win. I just don't think his body's going to ever hold up going through a best of 5. There are too many ebbs and flows. And, he needs everything to break his way, not just bracket-wise in a Grand Slam, but he's going to need to be health-wise in the right spot.
Yeah.
I know we'd love to get it. I don't think it's going to happen. So when age gets closer, it becomes an issue. And that's where the Rory McIlroy angle and the Masters yesterday, I think, is worth emphasizing because, he's young enough in his 30s right now where you theoretically could see more years. But how often in sports, TJ, do we see athletes start to push their upper 30s and the old saying, when it goes, for most athletes, it goes pretty quickly.
Oh, it easily goes pretty quickly. When you approach your 30s, that's when your body starts to really grind down. And especially in football. Look, football, we all know you get hit. Running backs retire before the age of 30 because of the amount of force they get hit with. All that to say, I mean, you see, but some athletes can handle it. I feel like golf is a different story. Maybe your swing's not as good as it used to be because the way your body is in motion, but you can probably play golf till your 40s, and which is why I don't see Tiger Woods going away for a while, even if he struggles,
I would agree that he won't go away, but I think his body is broken down enough to where this is not going out to the Fox Plus Invitational at Boonesboro and winning there.
Right.
It's competing against the top 20 to 30 in the entire world.
Yeah.
Like it's a different requirement with all due respect to the great local golfers and regional golfers.
Yeah.
It's like comparing what I do on a running level to Olympians. Like, dude, you're out of your mind if you think I could even sniff that air. Like there's no chance. I know elite college runners who couldn't sniff that air. I know of one, Sam Chalanga at Liberty, who might be in the discussion to qualify. Might. And that's how difficult it is on a running scale. So, we're talking Tiger Woods in the same thing. Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy could come out and win the Fox Plus for 20 years in a row if he ever decided to downshift what he's doing. But we're not comparing him to that. We're comparing him to what he is at the best.
Right.
And that's why these moments like yesterday, when they start to slip away again, I think you knew it wasn't going to be easy.
No.
The first time you get over the hump is so much more challenging. Again, getting my egotistical side here for a moment, but I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I think back to that. The first time they won the Super Bowl, they needed breaks to go their way in terms of the Falcons game where, the Falcons called a horrible call at the very end of that game. They needed the break to go their way where they got the strip sack and a lot of things bouncing their way to win the Super Bowl. The first one is so much harder. There's so much more doubt because you haven't done it before. And when you win multiple of an event, like the second Super Bowl for Philly, they just dominated Kansas City. It was anticlimactic. But once you've won the first, there is a level of exhale, which is like, what's there to look forward to? I don't know, being the best you could ever possibly be. But the first step is to take that first step. And that's why those of us who are watching or listening to the Masters over the weekend have to appreciate this moment as you heard it on CBS Sports TV or watched it as many of us did.
The long journey is over. Mcllroy has his masterpiece.
Two nuggets on that call from Jim Nantz on CBS.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I love Jim Nantz. Oh, it's so sad. That might have been his last Masters.
You know, he says he wants to go for another 10 years. I wouldn't doubt it. We played the soundbite, and there was still like 73 seconds left of the bite that we played.
Yeah.
We stopped it because it was all just noise. It was all the crowd reaction.
Yeah, let the crowd speak for itself.
Ding, ding, ding. For as much as Jim Nantz, I think CBS made the right call on putting Ian Eagle on the college basketball Final Four. Like, they made the correct call because Ian Eagle was calling a lot more college basketball games over the latter part of the season for the last handful of seasons. Again, preference-wise, I have more respect for Nantz in football because he's elevated, sorry to you as a Dallas Cowboy fan, but as much as I think Troy Aikman is the gold standard for color analysts, Tony Romo kind of stinks after his first year where he was calling plays and people change it up and he had to actually study and like, oh, I can't just go golf and be cool and make $1 million a game. And like, now I have to actually work at this. My cool, QB vibe isn't going to work. Like, Aikman's a grinder. Again, I'm a grinder, so I appreciate it. I think he's fantastic. Romo didn't. So I have more of an appreciation for Nantz because of what he's done to elevate the CBS A-team. When in reality, if you wanted the A-team, I would much rather see Ian Eagle previously when he was with Charles Davis or even Dan Fouts as the A-team. J.J. Watt, jury's still out on what that's going to end up being, but Ian Eagle's fantastic. But I think they made the right call on basketball. But Jim Nantz still gets the mechanics of play-by-play. Yeah. And Jim Nantz let that moment breathe. He went, 4 minutes without any commentary, just to allow the crowd reaction and the vocal part of it. And on the green microphones, because CBS gets that access when you pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
But all of that to speak for the moment, that's where Jim Nantz was at his best. And I thought it captured a great moment and really helped people understand the exhale of carrying that burden around, which is maybe as great as any in sports like tennis and golf, because you have no teammates on whom you can rely to lift you up when you may be struggling individually to get over your career. Those individual sports where it's just on you, the pressure is so much greater. People don't understand that about golf, about tennis. I'll say that throwing in there as a runner as well, that there's elements of that. And when you see something like what Rory McIlroy did yesterday, for the average person who sets a goal, it's ambitious, it's hard. You may never know if you're going to fully realize it. To have that come to fruition after so much heartbreak, that's where the moment of satisfaction has to come in.
Oh, heavily agreed. And I think that's what makes it so special. It's his first. I mean, he even said going into it, he was nervous. There was bumps and bruises, which is why people, Twitter warriors, as you may call it, think it shouldn't have gone his way. But, I mean, at the end of the day, when it came to the final hole, Rose struggled at that final hole, dominated the whole time, didn't hit the mark when he had to, and gave Rory the win, So
much of success, is as odd as this is to say, it is about making plays.
Yeah.
But again, I'll go back to tennis as a Novak Djokovic fan, because a lot of his greatness was just he did the average consistently at a high level and let other people make the mistake. You just keep doing your job to the best of your ability and trust that if you do that and you keep focusing on doing your job, the other person is going to have a tough time matching that same level of monotonous focus and intensity. And Rory McIlroy deserves a lot of credit for that and how he won and what he had to say afterwards in the interview with CBS on that particular playoff.
Yeah. But Rory threw it back a little deeper.
That was the play call. Excuse us for the soundbite. We thought we had that one up ready, and we'll try to get that one. But the point of the matter is you've got to find that. And you've got to realize that one of the most challenging things in sports is to be able to perform at your best when you're at the utmost moment. And some of that is just focus literally on, I know this sounds weird, but focus on the ball. Like, you focus just on the one small thing you can control. And in those moments, like it's easy for us to sit here and say, focus on the ball. It's easy for you to go out to your local golf course or tennis court or wherever and focus on it. Try doing that when the pressure is great and you know what's at stake. Try doing that when you've failed for many years, like Rory McIlroy has, particularly on Sundays at some Grand Slams and especially at Augusta. Try doing that when you've got, galleries of people on both sides of you that you're trying to make sure, not that they're going to come over and physically touch you, but the pressure they have is going to get transmitted to you. There's the whole, tension in the room type theory.
Yeah.
It's evident there. And that's where Rory McIlroy's performance yesterday deserves to be highlighted. And again, he's not relatable to us as a golfer because he's way better than any of us could ever hope to be at golf or in any sport.
Absolutely.
But he's relatable to us in the sense that we may have our own personal goals and ideas of what we want to accomplish. It may be really difficult to get those on whatever level of scale we have. So when we see something like that, that's where we can sit there and feel so energized by seeing what Rory McIlroy did and other elite performers who finally break through on the biggest stage. Now, in a moment, we'll get to the Fast Five at Five-ish, and trust us, we will get to the experts' takes on some of the big developments that have gone on in the world of sports. But if you were watching the Masters yesterday, there's one thing that you probably didn't miss, and we can definitely say you did not miss it because it wasn't very good, but we have to address right now to start the Fast Five at Five-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at Five-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
Hey, to those people at Bristol Motor Speedway who decided they did not want to watch the race at Bristol because there were a lot of people dressed as aluminum seats, as the old saying goes, you didn't miss much. Kyle Larson, in an ode to his former publicist, John Edwards, captured his second straight Bristol win, both in the Cup Series. He won back in the fall of last year, and then he dominated on Sunday, and his second straight of the weekend. He finished second in the truck race on Friday, won on Saturday in dominating fashion, and then won again on Sunday, leading over 400 laps in that race for the second time in a row at Bristol. I mean, look, Martinsville Speedway fan as much as anybody. Again, Martinsville is a little different because the fall race, there is a level of intensity and it's better than the spring race.
Yeah.
But right now, NASCAR's got a short track problem. The quality of racing or lack thereof is apparent on short tracks in NASCAR. And again, I grew up, Bristol night race was the most coveted ticket in NASCAR. There were long 1,000+ wait lists to get on that 1,000+ people wait list to get a ticket to Bristol. Now it's barely halfway full. Anybody can go to a race at Bristol. The venue itself is awesome, but the quality of racing just doesn't match up with it. NASCAR's got to find a way to address this. And the problem is, there doesn't appear to be any remedy to the car, which does not race well on short tracks. And if you're not willing to literally push the limits on tires to the point where a lot of drivers may be upset because they wear too much, but there's an element of strategy and skill in terms of how often to change them, how you manage them, what do you do if there's no caution, the field gets stretched out and the accordion's back. NASCAR has not been willing to get that close to the line. I think they need to get much closer. And if you go a little overboard, hey, the better quality of racing will be there. Because right now, if you don't have it, what's the interest in tuning in? And drivers are all what's the best thing for me? That's what they care about.
Yeah.
There's an element of their input that is valued, but there also comes a point where the fan interest speaks for itself. And if there is no fan interest, like there's not at Bristol, it's a real issue that NASCAR must address. And again, I err on the side of making the tires change, because right now this car does not race well on short tracks. It does not race well on road courses. And even we saw tracks like Darlington, where it used to race well, where passing can be challenging, not work very well. There have got to be other things, or else you're just going to have way too many clunkers, especially as these teams like Gibbs, Penske, and Hendrick and their offshoot organizations figure out how to handle this type of car.
Number 4.
Tragic news over the weekend. Former LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacey was found dead Saturday night in Houston, died in an apparent suicide while being pursued by authorities, pulled over, stopped, again, without getting graphic here, reportedly committed suicide at that point in time. He was wanted for charges of reckless driving and endangerment, where he was swerving in and out of traffic a couple of months ago. It resulted in an accident that caused a fatality. There were challenges there, but when you have that much talent, he could have dug himself out of this, frankly, in a way that most people in the general public could not. There may be big fines that have come his way, loss of driving privileges, etc. But this guy is an NFL draft talent. People thought he was going to be picked in the first, second, or third rounds, even with the significant baggage that this poor man had from his time at LSU being difficult to coach and get a deal, along with allegedly to what obviously has transpired from the last couple of months with the reckless endangerment from driving recklessly all the way up to Kyron Lacy fleeing from authorities and then ultimately taking his own life reportedly Saturday night, Sunday morning. It's just tragic. And it's the level of perspective. And again, there'll be more details that come out.
Yeah.
But I don't know his background situation. I don't know enough to be able to say, well, his parents enabled him too much and he always had that, and therefore he never knew how to handle real adversity in his life. Some athletes do fit that description, but I don't know enough to know whether Kyron Lacy fits that, and it's totally unfair to say that he does. But the one tragedy that often comes about because of this is, look, he's got parents that are around, and they're now not going to have a child, and it's going to be the biggest loss ever. I give Kyron Lacy's dad and his mom in particular, his parents, a lot of credit for coming out, and they didn't explicitly say what happened, but they haven't denied or threatened lawsuits on the reports that have come out linking Kyron Lacy's tragic death to suicide. I give this Kyron Lacy's parents, surviving parents, a lot of credit for coming out. Because I've said this before. I've seen it so often where it's either overdoses or suicide. And it's we don't want to say anything because it may look bad on us. To me, as somebody who's dealt with losses in my family, thankfully not my immediate family, but cousins, aunts, uncles, from suicide and drug use.
Yeah.
It's a disservice, frankly.
Yeah.
If you really want to make a difference in life, don't hide it and pretend it didn't happen, because there's two types of families in this world. There are families that have issues, and there are families that are lying because they want you to think they don't have issues, but they have issues. And it may not be in the immediate tight-knit family. That might work out fine. But when you can factor in extended family, there are just too many people and too many dynamics to pop up. And I believe Kyron Lacy's family deserves so much credit for being bold enough to come out and say this in spite of what's going on and going forward. I think it's commendable to Kyron Lacy's parents for saying that. Meanwhile,
number 3.
No other way to transition off of that, but we will. Tennessee announcing they have moved on from quarterback Nico Imaliava this past weekend. There are a couple of things about this. First of all, he wanted a pay raise. Reportedly had $2 million a year. He saw Carson Beck get $4 million a year. And I don't know if it's Nico himself, but it sure seems like his dad's heavily involved in this situation. And, again, there doesn't seem to be any agency representation. So it's just dad. And, when it's just parents and family members involved with one or two players, what do they care about burning bridges? They're only going to have one or two times in cycles where they're going to have to deal with these schools. So it's not like, Clutch Sports Group with LeBron and his group, or Rosenhaus, or CAA, which is the Jimmy Sexton arm. Like, they have to deal with multiple people all the time. There's a level of not burning bridges and trying to be transparent. What do you care if you're Nico's family? But here's the thing. I give Tennessee credit. I think their system often is allow quarterback statistics to shine. And in spite of that, he didn't have a great year. And again, I get it. I've been as critical as anybody of Carson Beck in Miami, or reportedly giving him $4 million a year when Cam Ward, who's justifiably, I think, going to be the number one pick in the draft next Thursday, got less than that at Miami. I get market economics, and every year everybody's value goes up. But I don't think Carson Beck's as good as Cam Ward or anything close to that. And if I'm Nico in his camp, I mean, again, he may have stunk, but it's like, well, that guy stinks too, and he got $4 million a year. I get that line of thinking. I can see Nico, though. He can't transfer in the SEC. So it would have to be the Big Ten. Doesn't seem like there are a lot of schools out there that are interested. Maybe UCLA, but that's it.
Yeah.
He could go to the Big 12. We've seen those type of schools take flyers on people. No. But the one that keeps popping into my mind, it's not Florida State, but it's North Carolina. And it's more because of this. If you're getting Nico similar to the value that he had at Tennessee, which basically is below market value for someone of his skill set relative to the competition, Belichick and Lombardi, again, take it for what it's worth, being Lombardi, friend of mine, but take that for what it's worth. They're not going to overpay, but when they sense an opportunity to jump in at below market value and to, quote, get a deal, end quote, they will look into that type of thing. And that's where it would not surprise me. I'm not saying they're going to, or they have serious interest. I'm just saying, from my knowledge of how Belichick operates at a distance and Lombardi a little bit closer, I think you're doing your due diligence, if nothing else. But there's another element to this, which we discuss in number 2. Until coaches actually say, hey, we'll be the head coach of the program, but we're just going to flat out sit out until there's some kind of labor agreement in place. You can hear them moan and complain all you want. But it's the old saying, the transfer portal, give it and take it away. And players out there are going to, especially when you're in a power program, you're looking at players all the time. So
Yeah.
you're tampering with guys on other rosters. Some of your guys are being tampered with. Everybody has an artificial opinion of their value, and there's no contracts locking deals into place. So the money values can continue to escalate just based upon all it takes is one, but one person is apparently willing to pay for a particular player in that sport.
I had a friend who real quickly worked in a restaurant, said other restaurants would poach workers like no other. And that's what we're seeing in college football now that it's legal. It's easy to poach players away, though. Dan Lanning, being the man of innocence, was reportedly told Tennessee, hey, Nico's contacted us, just thought I'd let you know. And then ultimately that led to Nico eventually getting kicked off of the program, though it was said it was mutually exclusive.
Or mutually agreed upon.
Yeah, mutually agreed upon.
You're right with that, TJ. I think there was a level of mutual in the sense that Tennessee just wasn't willing to pay what Nico and his camp wanted, and Nico was going to be maybe not himself, but he was being instructed to, shall we say, it seems, by his camp.
Yeah.
Read into it what you will. It seems like only his dad's involved, so take this for what it's worth. But it seems like he was instructed to not show up to practice Friday, maybe sit out the spring game and become a bigger PETA, pain in the fill in the blank with what might start with an A. Meanwhile, speaking of transfers,
Number 1.
the transfer portal giveth and taketh away from the Liberty Flames. It giveth to them Ryan Jones Jr., former 4-star recruit of Virginia Tech, 6'8", 240 pounds, didn't play much as a freshman, but you combine him with 6'5" guard J.J. Harper from West Liberty, this will go again with my theory of trust the evaluation from Richie McKay. And trust the fact that I know there are people out there that love to poo-poo on Kaden Matheny and Colin Porter in particular because they're below 6 feet tall as guards. But having those glue pieces in place allows the Flames to then build around them. And okay, you're going to have more talented scorers, but if you can have those type of glue guys in place who understand that their job is to take shots when they're available, like Kaden Matheny, and to facilitate to others, like Colin Porter, and to play hard, tenacious defense, even if you're at a size disadvantage, both Porter and Matheny, you can then supplement them with other players. Here's the other parts of this, and I'll be curious what John Manson has to say a little bit later. But don't underrate the element of Ryan Jones Jr. comes from Virginia Tech. Mike Young and Richie McKay are apparently pretty tight. They played a closed-door scrimmage before the beginning of this season. That relationship element matters, and I do think it goes both ways. Sometimes you'll lose guys to the portal, and coaches will call and ask, hey, this guy's transferring, and I mean, look, if he's transferring for more money, there's only so much you can do, but they'll be transparent about it. I'd flip it around and say sometimes that gives you a chance to say, hey, what's the deal with Ryan Jones if you're Virginia Tech? And Virginia Tech may say, hey, look, he was a freshman. He just didn't develop the way we want, but he's got the right attitude, and we think the skills are in place. We believe you could do something with it. That's the type of thing Liberty's going to have to take a chance on, like they did last year with Mothmer, with Peter, with Aquino, and others. And maybe by the end of this, you get a 4-star in Ryan Jones. Could he be an upgrade over Owen Aquino? Not initially, because Aquino is a real key contributor, but by the end of next season, there's a scenario where Jones plays a lot better and is an upgrade over that. Meanwhile, the transfer portal doth take it away from the Liberty Flames. TJ Bush and Jay Hardy joining Chris Bowtie as 3 defensive linemen in the last week to lead the Liberty Flames for the transfer portal. I mean, look, at this point, am I cynical with that when I say this, TJ? I just believe it's money. Like, I don't blame the kids at all. I was shocked that TJ wasn't, and maybe he wasn't, just came back to Liberty initially, but if you look at his production last year and you look at what he's accomplished on the field, he's a really good pass rusher. Jay Hardy was a 4-star recruit who just didn't quite put it all together at Auburn, but he was still a 4-star recruit. Even though I don't think he ever even materialized as a 4-star producer at Liberty, like TJ Bush was a better producer at Liberty than either Bowtie or Jay Hardy. Both of those are the type of players where it's just a raw supply and demand. Again, we saw Xavier Gray, who was a meh offensive lineman for Liberty, reportedly command $350,000 to $400,000 in NIL. Should go to Northwestern. He's not worth that for anybody. Like, with all due respect, I don't blame Xavier Gray for getting it. I don't blame Bush. I don't blame Bowtie. I don't blame Hardy. Someone wants to pay you that much money for a year of college football, go off and get it. It's hard for me, far be it from me to deny any of these people the opportunity to capitalize with that much money in that short of a window. They could go back to school and all that money they're making to pay for the end of their education and insert your college here. So again, I don't begrudge anybody for it. It's just the reality for Liberty where if you're wanting one thing, if you're a program like a big program, you need the money to pay players. But if you're a program like Liberty, I'd rather have the right coaches that have the right systems in place that can continue to develop players, and knowing that, okay, maybe you're never going to reach the ceiling of a big-time program, but were you ever going to anyway?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got to keep in mind these kids know that the NFL is dim for some of them. So taking the money while you can, I mean, I can't blame these kids. They're trying to set up their lives as well. And now the NIL offereth a lot, and you go where the money is.
TJ Bush, best example of that. I mean, he's listed at 6'3", 265. I kind of think that's a little bit generous. You know, he's a good player, but I didn't see the twitch and explosiveness. He's a great college player, great producer. I don't see NFL level twitch and explosiveness right now. Now, he could maybe develop that with the right coaching. Maybe he does get that in another program. And Liberty's got as good coaching and strength and development and nutrition as you'll get for any program, much less a group of five. But maybe there's the potential there. And certainly if you prove you can beat top players at a higher level and go against better offensive linemen more consistently, God bless you. You'll have those opportunities. Yeah. Again, I don't begrudge him, but just playing a percentages game, the odds are none of these guys, Bowtie, Bush, or Hardy, are going to the next level. So get the money while you can. Meanwhile, we're going to get the insight while we can. That will come your way next in the Fast Lane, covering the Commonwealth, starting with the JMU Dukes, when we return on the VTR in Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTR in Sports.
Are you ready to move to the next chapter of your life? That means you're ready for us. Hi, I'm Moyanne Harding, the region's only total turnkey realtor and interior designer. We'll come to you and help you decide what you're ready to let go of and bring you top dollar for those unwanted items. Most importantly, we'll sell your most valuable investment, your home. With decades of experience, just hand your keys to us and let the stress melt away. Call me today and book your consultation, www.moyanne.com.
Moyanne Harding, brokered by Keller Williams.
Allstate agent Donovan Howell is now serving Lynchburg. He lives and works here just like you. And with all kinds of local insurance advice, Donovan is someone you can count on to help you protect all that's good in your life. Donovan makes it easy to save on the quality protection you need, and I'll even help you do the switching and the paperwork for you.
Call or come by the Donovan Howell Allstate office in Windhurst today.
Pull up a seat and join our conversation. Around the Table with Vicki is my new local radio show and podcast discussing leadership, entrepreneurship, philanthropy, faith, and family. You just recently helped me get started the daytime program right here on Perryville Road, right in our offices. And we were just discussing, we're getting ready to hit almost 25 residents over there, which
That's
I'm
great.
so, you remember when we were just like, we would send some people over from Runkin' Pratt just to fill the seats in the early days. But talk to us a little about what we have going on in daytime. We mentioned Tower Gardens.
Oh, daytime is special. That again is a place where your loved one can come that can't stay at home, but they do just as much as our other communities do. We have Tower Gardens for the ones that like gardening. We still do cooking things for them. They still go out to eat. We offer van rides, arts, crafts, the whole nine yards.
Music, lots of music.
Lots of music comes in.
Right. And the Tower
Gardens.
You do.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting ready to share. Our Tower Gardens inside daytime are used seasonally to help grow whatever flowers Christopher's getting ready to place at the facility at each entrance. And I think that's so cool because it really does show that they're playing a very big role in making sure that they're watered and giving them a lot of love and singing to sometimes, because we know plants love all that.
Yes.
And it gives the residents a chance to connect with a bigger, broader purpose. Around the Table with Vicki, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on WIQO.
Hi, I'm Matt with Fleet Feet Roanoke. I've enjoyed working with Ed Lane and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. But when they sold their Roanoke station, I was skeptical the partnership could still provide value. Months later, I'm thankful that Ed took the time to meet with me, discuss the right solutions, and a plan to invite his audience to Fleet Feet Roanoke. Now we're able to build a connection with that audience thanks to Ed's creativity. Stop by and see us at Fleet Feet Roanoke to learn more. We'd love to get to know you.
Email info@virginiatalkradio.com to start growing your business.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, Build with right choice.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
For over a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. More than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. It's also the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times. A new bill in Congress would ensure this free, reliable service remains in cars. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to support the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Head to lynchburg-hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's BTR in Sports.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle BT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
So for the Virginia Cavaliers, it's a great question that we begin covering the Commonwealth discussing.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Virginia Cavaliers.
With JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor, pull that music, yep, veteran UVA reporter, Jerry Ratcliffe, who's with us once again here in the Fast Lane. Jerry, on your latest The Jerry and Jerry Show, UVA basketball, ravaged or reimagined? What's your greater opinion on the first couple of weeks now of the Ryan Odom era, which has featured adding a spade of three-point shooting specialists?
I guess a little bit of both, Ed, because practically the entire roster disappeared, and no fault of Odom, really. But although I'm not sure a lot of those guys would have fit into his style of play. And so what he has gone out and done is recruit guys that fit his style and can get up and down the floor on both ends of the court and can shoot the three, which should lead to some pretty exciting basketball, I think, and a completely different style than what Virginia fans have been accustomed to for the past 15 or 16 years.
Jerry, you referenced the completely different style. Is this going to be a lack of defense, or is this going to be more of a pressurized defense that leads to more offense and therefore the score goes up just because of that?
Oh, definitely the latter, Ed. They're going to press, if not full court, three-quarters court, and they'll put a lot of pressure, a lot of on-ball pressure, hoping to create turnovers and create havoc and turn those into easy baskets. And that's part of his philosophy. And, you couple that with as much as they run with the ball, and it's going to be very physically demanding, I think. And you're going to have to be a pretty good athlete and be in pretty good shape to be able to play that style for extensive minutes. And I mean, it's unusual to play 30 minutes in his offense and defense just because you're losing so much. So it's going to be pretty physically demanding on these guys. And I'm not sure some of the former players could have withstood that.
Jerry, we've seen reports of the $6 to $8 million range for Virginia in terms of the amount of money they are committing to men's basketball. It leads us to an article you have at JerryRatcliffe.com right at the top of the page about men's basketball and the new seating plan that will start not this upcoming season, but 2027, 2028. How much of that is designed to, over time, accommodate the anticipated rising costs and need to reprioritize where that money originates?
I'm sure that's part of it. And then, of course, the house settlement money is going to be a part as well. I think that number now is ancient, that 6 to 7 million. I think it's probably triple that or close to it. And just because I know after the Odom press conference when we were talking to Carla Williams, the AD, excuse me, she went out of her way to say that we have significantly upped our NIL packages. So I think they're right up there at the top of the league in terms of money. But certainly, they're like all athletic departments. They're seeking every avenue they can to bring in extra revenue, and that's certainly one way to do it.
JerryRatcliffe.com founder Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. You mentioned upping NIL packages. Are we to read into that what Coach Mox has added with women's basketball, bringing in a transfer from UCF, Anagang Ring, NC State, Caitlin Weimer, and I know she wasn't a big contributor, but from LSU, Samaya Smith as well?
Yeah, well, I don't know what their package is like, but I know that they had a significant contribution from the founder of Reddit. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's married to one of the Williams sisters, so he certainly made a nice impact on the women's program, and they're obviously going out and using it.
No doubt he is, and no doubt the impact is just as great at JerryRatcliffe.com. Hootie, we could ask you about the spring game, but I put a little asterisk beside that anyway for what it's worth. We'll table that for another time because right now the action is so furious on the transfer portal. That is our priority.
Yeah, I mean, basketball has dominated the news cycle as far as UVA is concerned, and will so until the portal closes, I guess.
It certainly will. The impact and knowledge, though, will be easy to find at JerryRatcliffe.com. Hootie, great to chat with you. We appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. I enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next week.
Now to the Virginia Tech Hokies.
With the real D-Cunna, that's actually just his Twitter and Instagram account, TechSideline.com reporter David Cunningham with us in the fast lane. David, great to be speaking with you. Mike Young and Virginia Tech, they got their second commitment of the transfer portal era. Last week, big man, West Virginia. This week, or today specifically, point guard, Delaware. Is this roster coming together in a way that makes the most sense for Mike Young in terms of the players they've retained, more on that in a moment, and also the players they're adding at the positions of most importance?
Yeah, Ed, great to be with you. I would say yes. I think the Hokies have their roster coming along nicely now. I think Amani Hansberry is a huge front court ad. Of course, that was last week. And then Isaiah Pasha, I mean, he is a young guy, but he was the CAA Rookie of the Year at point guard, and he's kind of got the versatility where he can play the one, he can play the two. He's pretty good defensively. He's a pretty good scorer, good at kind of rebounding and assisting. He's kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy, and I think the Hokies kind of knocked it out of the park with this one. I think this is about as good of a get as you can get, especially in terms of the guy has 3 years of eligibility left. He's coming from Delaware, where he played pretty well this year on a team that was okay. And I think the Hokies believe that they can take his game to the next level. And you have to think, when I was doing some research, I looked. This was a guy who was signed to Iona and Rick Pitino at a high school in 2022. Think about that for a minute, right? This is a guy who has been recruited by a really good coach in Pitino before, ended up at Delaware, played for a pretty good coach there, now coming to Virginia Tech and playing for Mike Young. And I think he's a pretty good fit alongside Ben Hammond, the kind of incumbent point guard, if you will.
Yes, it looks like it's making a lot more sense for Virginia Tech basketball and potentially translating to more victories as well. We will continue to look at the basketball roster reshaping, but one part that we don't think will be much reshaping is with Toby Lawal. Your colleague, Chris Coleman, reported a couple of weeks ago that this was going to happen, where he's entered the NBA draft, but has retained the opportunity to return to Blacksburg. Would this be more alarming if he entered the NBA draft and the transfer portal, as opposed to taking kind of the Justin Mutz, Kevy Aluma route, which is he just seems like he's going in for some free feedback?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And yes, it would be more alarming if he was entering the transfer portal at the same time. But from everybody I talk with around here, Ed, Toby Lawal is happy. He kind of just wants to get some feedback and see where he stacks up for pro scouts. And my guess those conversations along the lines went, sure, we'll be glad to support you and help you go through that process, because I'm sure he's going to end up playing basketball professionally somewhere, likely overseas, maybe. But to give him the opportunity to support him in that journey and say, hey man, we'll keep a roster spot open for you. Of course, we want you back. But I think it's a good opportunity. I think back to the conversations I had with Justin Mutt after that, and he talked about how Mike Young was very supportive of him during that time, and he was able to go, I think it was Vegas at the time. He went to a couple different combines and competed against some of the best college players in the country, and of course some international guys. It's great competition that lets you get a real feel for what other guys at your level are doing, the best of the best. And I think for Toby Lawal, it's only a positive. And I truly believe that he'll probably get some pretty good feedback and then decide to come back to Blacksburg. And if so, that's a pretty good pairing in the front court between him and Hansberry, who of course they got from West Virginia.
The Real Decana, Twitter and Instagram and TechSideline.com are the places you can keep up with David Cunningham. David, is there anything else we really need to add from the spring football game other than the fact that, well, we know who didn't play in Kyron Drones, and we know that it was a convoluted scoring system that probably didn't tell us a whole lot?
Yeah, I think there were some young guys defensively that stood out. I was encouraged by the defensive line's performance. Granted, it is a spring game, but there were some young guys, Asen Stevens, or a redshirt sophomore, who saw a little bit of action last year. He had a scoop and score. Granted, the ball was given to him essentially, but Dante Lovett had a pick. JoJo Krim had a pick. He's a true freshman. There were some defensive players that came up and made plays. And part of it is, okay, maybe it wasn't the number one offense in some aspects, specifically at quarterback. But at the same time, you have to be around the ball and be in the right positions to make plays. And I think that's a credit to Sam Seifkis, the defensive coordinator, and his group and what they've done so far. It seems like they've come along pretty well in that realm. Obviously not a finished product by any means, but I think between Kelvin Gilliam and Kamari Copeland at tackle, Ben Bell and James Jonkum at end, I think they've got a pretty good front. How things shake out in the secondary and at linebacker is TBD, but I felt a little bit encouraged based off of how some of the young guys performed on the defensive side, Ed.
That's encouraging for Virginia Tech, and at least some level of excitement and optimism heading in to the remainder of the offseason and summer camps. David, thank you for your time as always. We'll keep it locked to TechSideline.com and The Real Decana on Twitter and Instagram.
Sounds great, Ed. Talk to you next week.
David Cunningham with us here in the Fast Lane. The other side of spring activity, not necessarily great for Liberty football, but potentially for Liberty men's basketball. John Manson of CFRed.com with us, next here in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app and Ask That Smart Speaker, Open VTR and Sports.
SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech pack Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
Are you ready to move to the next chapter of your life? That means you're ready for us. Hi, I'm Moyanne Harding, the region's only total turnkey realtor and interior designer. We'll come to you and help you decide what you're ready to let go of and bring you top dollar for those unwanted items. Most importantly, we'll sell your most valuable investment, your home. With decades of experience, just hand your keys to us and let the stress melt away. Call me today and book your consultation, www.moyanne.com.
Moyanne Harding, brokered by Keller Williams.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
Welcome to the Villas at Oakwood, offered by Oakwood Villas Retirement Homes, LLC, the best-kept secret in Bedford. Our stunning community offers spacious, one-level modern villas with top-of-the-line amenities. Enjoy a walk through our landscape community, connect with neighbors in our clubhouse, and take in the views of the peaks. Visit thevillas@oakwood.com or contact Robin Lee Sage at 434-238-4477, brokered by Legacy Realty and Development.
Hey there, fellow travelers. It's me, the Hotel Whiz. Before you go anywhere, call me day or night for hotel rates too low to publish. I'll save you up to 75% on over 500,000 hotels across the globe. You see, I've already done the research, so you don't have to spend time online trying to find the best deal. That's up to 75% off. Just call me, the Hotel Whiz. It's a free call, and you get instant access to rates too low to publish with no cancellation fees.
Make a free call now and save up to 75% off your hotel rooms the next time you're going somewhere for business or pleasure. Call the Hotel Whiz now and get instant access to rates too low to publish. 800-378-2714. 800-378-2714. 800-378-2714. Call the Hotel Whiz right now for rates too low to publish. 800-378-2714.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. It also delivers vital emergency information when your community needs it most. A new bill in Congress would ensure AM radio stays in your car because when cell and internet services are down, this free emergency service is critical. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to support the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
It's a Masterful Monday on the morning warm-up. Ty and I gave all of our thoughts on a epic Sunday that ends up with Rory Mcllroy winning the Masters. Plus, some reaction to the NBA playoffs being set, Nico Imalieva leaving Tennessee, and much more from the weekend. Tuesday, Lake Lewis joins us to talk Commanders and the NFL. So join us on the morning warm-up, weekday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. on BTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., and on the BTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Part 2 of covering the Commonwealth. Get ready. It'll be long, but worth your while. Starting with... Who's it going to be?
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth. A look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Liberty Flame.
John Manson from ASeaofRed.com back with us once again here in the Fast Lane. John, great to be speaking with you. We'll get the bad news out of the way for the Flames. They now have 3 defensive linemen in the last week who have entered the transfer portal. Chris Bowtie was the first, then TJ Bush and Jay Hardy as well. I mean, I'm beyond cynical at this point. Are you at the point now where when this type of news happens, your natural reaction is, well, guess they got an offer they couldn't refuse financially?
Yeah, I don't know, Ed. It's an interesting time in college athletics, and obviously TJ Bush is a huge loss for the Flames, a 2-year starter. He was one of the first guys that committed to Coach Chadwell after he came to Liberty, was committed to him at Coastal Carolina. So
him going in, obviously he's talented, and I'm sure he can make more money going into the portal than he can at Liberty, but it's disappointing from a Liberty fan's perspective to see him go in. The very talented guy, and Chris Bodie and Jay Hardy, those are two more. I think if you lost one of them, it wouldn't sting very badly. But losing both of them, both are two veteran guys on the defensive line, defensive tackle specifically, where Bush plays defensive end, and it kind of losing all three of these guys in a week. It's the defensive line, I think, goes from probably being a team strength to much more of a question mark. And obviously the portal officially opens on Wednesday, so Liberty will certainly be active in there trying to beef up on the defensive line. But losing all three of these guys is definitely a sting. Hardy's a guy that started at Auburn, transferred to Liberty under previous head coach Hugh Freeze. And Chris Bodie's a guy who's been at Liberty for a few years now, and has been a valuable member of the two deep on the interior of the defensive line. And losing all three of those, so late in the off season, it is just a tough sting. But this is college athletics, college football, and we're going to be seeing a lot more portal names across the country here in the coming days and over the next week until it closes later part of next week.
Yeah, I mean, essentially with the second portal window, you've got these teams that have a chance to go through spring practice, right, and decide, all right, we're weak at this position, we're not. And I mean, like it or not, I know people are speculating tampering. I'm sure it's happened with Liberty players. I'm sure it's happened with most players, even on power rosters from one to the next. Am I naive enough, or maybe I'm too cynical and is the other way? But my theory is almost, if you're the general manager of a power program, you're almost not doing your job if you're not tampering and having your department scout players off of rosters like Liberty's and other schools, because if you're not doing it, someone else probably is.
Yeah, the tampering piece of it has become so widespread and rampant that, you pretty much expect that everybody's doing it until proven otherwise. And, we could sit here and talk, for the next hour and a half about the NCAA and what they need to do to make changes to this. But, NIL and transfer portal and revenue sharing, it's all part of college athletics. It's not going away. So coaches and athletic departments, programs, fans, all the above have to, adjust to it and learn to live with it. And I'm with you. I do think that tampering is a big problem. But again, until the NCAA does anything about it, it's just going to continue to be a thing. And even if they do start cracking down on it, it's still going to be something. And that's something that's been going on forever. And it's just become much, much more prevalent in today's society with the way things are with the portal and NIL.
Well, back in the day, you were kind of buying players out of high school, not saying Liberty was, but other programs who allegedly may have done that. They're buying out of high school, but once you got them, they're there whether you like them or not. And so you're not literally scouting off the other roster. Now you can miss on a guy out of high school, no problem. Just get him in college, and you've got a chance to do that. John, the flip side to the transfer portal is it can work in different ways. And Liberty men's basketball, again, not saying they're tampering with anybody. By no means am I throwing that accusation out there. But they lose a guy like Owen Aquino. And then it comes down that Ryan Jones Jr., who didn't play much, but is a former 4-star recruit for Virginia Tech, commits to Liberty men's basketball. One of the two transfers who's committed in the last 48 hours. But we'll start with Ryan Jones Jr., the forward for Liberty. I'm not saying he's on the Owen Aquino level right now, because Aquino was a big contributor last year, but is it reasonable to say that if you trust Richie McKay, they may be able to get him to the point where by the end of the season, he has even more upside that he's showing for the Flames?
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Jones is you're buying into that upside, that potential that made him a top 50, top 70 national recruit. And I mean, let's be honest, if he was signing with Liberty a year ago now, that would have turned heads all over college basketball world, where he was a consensus four-star recruit out of high school. But he goes to Blacksburg for a year, doesn't play much. I think he saw playing time in 5 games and has decided to enter the portal, as so many people do now. And, I think for Liberty, they got, even with the loss of Aquino, they still got Isaiah Enan and Josh Smith, both coming off of injuries and did not play or missed at least half the season. For Enan or Smith, who missed the whole season due to an injury. And then also Zach Cleveland, obviously, in the front court. But I think Jones gives them a guy, and Xander Yates, I shouldn't fail to mention him. But, Jones gives them a guy with a lot of potential, and he could play into a big role. I mean, he's obviously got a lot of talent. It's just a matter of if he can put it all together. It's hard. I mean, you look at this Liberty roster, they got so many, 5th and 6th year players, and Enan and Smith and Cleveland with a fourth year guy as well as, and even Xander Yates is also in that mix. It's hard to expect a second year guy, even as talented as Jones is, to supplant all of them for a significant role. But again, you'll see when he gets to Lynchburg just how much of an impact he can make immediately. And at the least case, he provides an insurance policy for Enan and Smith, who are, like I said, are both coming off those injuries.
John Manson here in the fast lane from a CFRed.com on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville Southside, the VTR and Sports app, and Fast Lane Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts and Facebook Live and YouTube. JJ Harper is the other basketball transfer. 21 games started in the 23 he played for West Liberty last season. About 30 minutes a game, a little under that. 15.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3 assists per game. Pretty good shooter from the field, 3-point range, and hopefully he's not going to get cursed by the Liberty free throw bug that seemed to be going around this past year. But is this another example of the Flames doing what they did with Javon Moffmer, doing what they did with Talon Peter, and that is finding guys from these Division II and JUCO type programs and saying, hey, there's something to work with. We trust our coaching staff to get the most out of now JJ Harper.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've seen that with Coach McKay. He's kind of found a sweet spot at the D2 level, finding guys that are ready to move up for their last year or last couple of years of eligibility. And Harper, as you mentioned, has got 1 year of eligibility left. He was at West Liberty last year, and he's actually taken advantage of that JUCO ruling for, that started with the Diego Pavia case. He began his career at JUCO level and bounced around a couple of different D2 programs, and now he's got 1 more year of eligibility left, and he's going to give it a go at Liberty in the D1 level. And I think Javon Moffmer is he's kind of like the replacement for Moffmer, and that's what I think McKay sees in Harper and his potential 6'5" guy that can shoot it over 30% from 3, and he was one of the best players on one of the best Division II teams. West Liberty was 30-5, made to the Elite 8. And Harper was a big part of that, all-conference player, and he's a guy that can score the ball, as we saw with Moffmer and his time at Division II level in Cedarville. But I think Liberty would be counting on him more for his defense. Kind of be your old-fashioned 3-and-D type guy that can knock down an open shot and also play defense. We've seen Coach McKay develop a lot of guys like that over the years. You go back to like an Elijah Cuffey. As well, who did that so well for so many years throughout his career, and now with Moffmer this past season, and now we'll see if Harper can kind of mold into that. And I think Harper, Jones is much more acclaimed coming from the ACC program and a 4-star recruit, but Harper's probably got much easier, much more direct path to not just playing time, but a significant role on the team this coming season. I mean, he could even be in line for a starter's role and certainly play at least starters minutes, provided his game translates to the Conference USA level.
Great insight. You'll find more of it at CFRed.com as John Manson hanging out with us today in the Fast Lane. John, always great to catch up. We appreciate your time. Thank you much, and I'm sure we'll have more to discuss when we chat again.
Yeah, it's never an ending world in college athletics. Thanks so much, Ed.
Indeed. John Manson with us here in the Fast Lane. And again, if there's one good thing about the transfer portal, we've got topics galore throughout the entire year because it just keeps on going. Meanwhile, the laps kept going, but not much was changing yesterday.
Now to NASCAR.
Caleb Barnes, frontstretch.com, hanging out with us today in the Fast Lane. Caleb, did you have to take some energy drinks, some kind of supplements? What kept you awake during what was a snooze fest of a Kyle Larson dominance yesterday?
Honestly, what kept me awake was being there at the racetrack. I know, like, whenever you're watching those races on TV, they're hard to keep up with. But since I was there, I had my media vest. I was getting some photo and video. I was able to walk around. And whenever you're there at the track, I know as boring as the race for the lead was, you can still see Bristol has such great seats. You can see all around the track, and you can see some of the battles that are developing and other guys that are running closer together, even though there still maybe wasn't a ton of passing. It does make it to go by a little bit easier as opposed to sitting on TV and just watching one guy dominate the rest of the field. You can sit there and see what guys and what battles are actually taking place. But yeah, Kyle Larson was putting on kind of just a show of his own for people, especially people who maybe weren't at the racetrack and didn't have that access to see the entire racing service there at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Is it just about Kyle Larson dominating that jades the opinion of this, or are there legitimate problems that need to be addressed with the quality or lack thereof of racing at Bristol and other short tracks in NASCAR, Caleb?
I know everybody has a lot of different opinions. I'm of the opinion, I think Bristol is still a great racetrack. I know a lot of drivers this weekend have kind of seemed to come around more on the idea of the PJ1 and the things that it's done to make Bristol a multi-groove track. And Bristol has had some great races the past couple years before the next-gen car. I'm of the opinion that it is a car problem. I do think the Xfinity race on Saturday had some of the same qualities with Larson dominating and running away, but I felt like the Xfinity race had some great battles throughout the field, and you had guys that were still able to move around and pass each other and put on some great racing back behind Larson, who was dominating that show, whereas the Sunday event, Larson was dominating, but nobody else was really doing anything outside of Ryan Blaney. Once again, Blaney in that 12 car is basically the only driver I feel like the past couple weeks who's been able to actually pass guys on the long run once guys get settled in. So I feel like it's more of a car issue, and the longer we try to diagnose and blame it on the tracks or on the tires or on these other different extenuating circumstances, I think we're just jumping around the true problem, which is the car, and just the corner speeds are too high. This thing puts out too much dirty air. The downforce is too much, and it's just too easy to drive. There's a post about the average lap speed data, and those last 50 laps, like the top 7-8 cars were all just right on top of each other, and it's impossible to pass whenever the cars are that close together and whenever they're running such high corner speeds, and the drivers are just putting in the same lap times pretty much.
Caleb Barnes with us here in the Fast Lane. Caleb, NASCAR on the Cup Series a week off. The trucks at Xfinity, though, will be racing Friday night trucks, actually afternoon, and Saturday at Rockingham this coming weekend. Do you expect the support to be what it needs to be for this to stay on the schedule going forward?
I hope so, and we'll see with it being Easter weekend that if that kind of hurts it a little bit or if it helps it. I think some of NASCAR's diehard fan base, I think there's a little bit of that return atmosphere and vibe that we had at North Wilkesboro a couple years ago with the All-Star race, and this one I think kind of has that same feeling, even though it's not the Cup Series going there. I know the Xfinity Series has put on some great action, really brought in a lot of fans, and being on the CW, it's had its own eyes on that series as well. So I at least expect that Saturday race to be a show of its own and have a lot of people going to try and support it for that one-off Xfinity Series race. And I certainly hope that it brings in enough people to really maybe potentially look at Rockingham, getting that a place back in the consistent rotation of NASCAR tracks.
Dude, it's a great venue. My wife and I went when they made the Truck Series return, after everyone thought it was dead and buried for good about a decade ago, and love the caliber of racing there. Can kind of see how the ingress and egress is a bit of an issue, but that's a topic for a different time. Meanwhile, Caleb, we appreciate your time as always in the Fast Lane. Thank you much, and we'll keep it locked to frontstretch.com for all the latest.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me today, Ed.
Caleb Barnes with us here in the Fast Lane. Well, they started off winning 4 out of 5. Now they have dropped 4 out of 5. Will the real Lynchburg Hillcats please stand up? Somebody who can help us make sense of what we've seen in the early going of the Hillcats season is Jason Prill, play-by-play broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats, with us here in the Fast Lane, winning 3 of their first 4 games, the Lynchburg Hillcats, and then dropping 4 of their last 5. But the question remains, Jason, what version of the Lynchburg Hillcats are we going to get when they head to Salem tomorrow night?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we're all trying to figure that out right now. The one thing that we do know is that this team can hit better than we thought they would. Right now, there's still some disconnect in the bullpen, and that's where a lot of the losses have come from. Been late in games. The starters have been able to do their job and get you through 4 or 5 innings, but the bullpen, when it comes in, there's about a 4-run ERA difference between the starting rotation and those coming out of the pen. So if they can figure that out, the Hillcats are going to be just fine. So what we know so far is we're going to get a team that can score some runs. They'll string together some hits. They'll be aggressive on the base.
Well, that
still remains whether or not we can pitch.
That means you'll get at least exciting games, albeit maybe both teams providing the offensive fireworks. If that's your forte, the Hillcats are at Salem this coming week, so not too far if you want to travel over. They're back at home next week against Fayetteville. Jason, you mentioned the pitching for the Hillcats. Is this a matter of younger guys calming down? Is this a matter of younger guys adjusting to a different level of competition? What do you make of the struggles for the Hillcats on the mound in the early going of the season?
Yeah, I think the issue that we're seeing right now is it's older guys that are just trying to get strikes over. And I think they need to mix up their pitches a little bit more. They need to fall less into a pattern and do more to mix up their pitches and work through at-bats in different ways rather than relying on the same thing over and over again. The second time through the order has been deadly for Lynchburg, which tells me they're not making any changes right now. So if the Hillcats can make those changes the second and third time through the order, I think they're going to have the upper hand because their pitching is solid.
Great insight. Jasprill19 is where you get more of it on Twitter and Instagram. He's the play-by-play broadcaster for the Lynchburg Hillcats. Jason Prill with us here in the Fast Lane. Jason, always great to chat with you. We'll be speaking again in another week after the series at Salem.
Absolutely. Can't wait for it. Thanks, Ed.
Jason Prill with us here in the Fast Lane. And a reminder, get those tickets at InsaneRadioDeals.com with the $10 food voucher, good for chicken tenders, a hot dog, or a hamburger. I think it's chicken tenders, certainly a hot dog or a hamburger, but a $10 food voucher at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, we sign off today in the Fast Lane. For TJ, I'm Ed. We're back. No show tomorrow, Wednesday afternoon, 5 to 6-ish. Now on to Make It Rain with Adam Shine from VSiN.
Covered. Head over to firstbet.com. That's the number one, stbet.com to get started. And enter promo code VSiN200 to claim a special sign-up bonus. That's firstbet.com, the number one, stbet.com.
Hey, it's Bill from VSiN. You may know me as the guy who writes the VSiN Daily Newsletter. I'm also one of VSiN's owners.